I don't know how I remember this, but Sega Superstars Tennis. I found the DS version of this game at an EB Games. I genuinely don't know how long ago, and I got it because Sonic. I can't remember if I bought it myself or if I begged my mother for it since it was cheap, but I still got it. Cause Sonic. I was a Sonic fan in the way most people are FNAF fans. I watched other people play the games. Genuinely, despite wanting quite a few Sonic games, the only one I ever got was Sonic and the Secret Rings, which I genuinely would not be surprised if my family had it before I was born. And I'm yet to actually properly beat it myself. But I like Sonic, I swear. But all the other Sega superstars in these games? What kid born after the Wii came out has heard of any of these series besides Sonic? And maybe Monkey Ball. I hadn't even heard of Monkey Ball at the time, I only heard of Sonic. I decided I wanted to revisit the game and also just check out the Wii version, since I just think seeing what differences there are would be interesting. And also to see if I got scammed by the DS version. This game was way smaller than I remembered. I remember there being a decent amount of content here, but no, there's only like 3 modes. If you count having randomized tennis matches as a mode, there's 4. Wow, so cool. The match play mode is just tennis. You can play singles or doubles and have 4 different shots. Top spin, which is a faster shot that lands at the back of a court. Slice, which is a slower shot which also lands at the back of a court. Just over the net shot, which is used as a slow shot that does its best to just barely go over the net. And a lob shot, which I genuinely don't understand the point of. My guess is that the lob shot's meant to be a shot that is slower and focuses on the back of the court, which, yeah, could work. Only 2 issues though. 1, that's kind of just like the slice shot. And 2, the lob shots can be smashed. Smash shots are a contextual shot that can happen if a ball is flung into the air by either bad timing or using a lob shot. Lobbing the ball into the air is a punishment for bad placement or timing, which, honestly, it's pretty cool. It makes it so if you only barely hit the ball, there is a slight punishment, with it being easier for the opponent to steal the point, which I think is nice. Makes being more accurate more important rather than just being in the general vicinity of the ball, which is cool. So why do you want to do that on purpose? I personally just don't understand it. The variety of shot types, though, excluding the lob, all work really well together. There is an element of trying to mix up your opponent with shot types, and also some trying to control their position, which is neat. Though there is still one more type of shot kinda that you can pull off. During the match, you have a little star that starts growing below you. I'm not sure what causes it to grow, but it does, and when it's at full size you can go into superstar mode, which makes your shots do a fancy pattern to try and make the ball harder to hit, which it kinda does, but there's a lot of inconsistency in it. Each character superstar has a different ball pattern, but some are way more predictable than others. For example, a character I can't remember just goes in a straight line zigzagging vertically towards you, which is a lot easier to determine the approximate landing position of, compared to something like Sonic's, which does a half diamond shape, which is a little more difficult to predict. You can also be thrown off it if you forget the fact it does a diamond shape. That happens a lot to me. It's just a bit imbalanced when basically everything else about the characters are the same. Some of the characters do have this little special thing that changes how they play something. Something like Sonic is faster, whoa! It's determined by these little classes, but like, if these weren't here, I would not have been able to notice any difference. Maybe with this Bing character, but that's like it. One thing that I'm not entirely sure if it's me using a 2DS, which also makes the opening cutscene double letterboxed, or the game itself, but the depth perception was a little tricky to properly depth perception. Well, I have gotten used to it a bit. I have and still have a bit of trouble with depth perception sometimes. I've gotten a lot closer to the net to try and hit the ball, and it just went over my head. Or the opposite has happened, and I was way further back than I thought the ball was gonna go. This isn't an issue I've had with other tennis games, and by other tennis games I mean Wii Sports, so it's just odd I'm having these issues here, but there is a decent chance it's just me not being good. It's probably just me not being good. The other main mode here is the tennis tournaments. Either singles or double matches against 5 CPUs with the completion of a tournament unlocking a new character. The tournaments don't really feel like tournaments though. The rounds are just labeled as round 1, round 2, quarter, semi, and finals. But without the bracket setup, it kinda just feels like 5 random tennis matches, which is not the most interesting. It's just more tennis without a real twist. However, if you wanted tennis with a twist, you'd look towards games. This is already a game, why isn't all the mode called games or games? Which, joking aside, is really cool, in concept at least. These are all minigames based on the franchises represented, and even some that aren't represented outside of this mode, and they're all spins on tennis. Most of the time. But usually there's a little twist which ranges in quality and actually being tennis. You have some more interesting ones, like the House of the Dead, renamed Curie Mansion in Power Regions at the very least. You have to defeat zombies by hitting them with tennis balls with some twists here and there, which I think is a pretty creative way to change up tennis, while still being based on a game franchise. I only think it's okay, but hey, I really do like the creativity. Sonic, on the other hand, just grab rings while avoiding projectiles. It's not that fun and not very tennis-like. I guess it is a little tennis with, like, projectiles coming at you, but barely. It's just not interesting. So yeah, they vary, but I do think it's a pretty neat addition, which makes the crossover element actually a thing that exists outside of just, there's the Jet Set Radio guy and there's Sonic. And overall, this game is a fine DS game. It's a better DS game than the console version is a Wii game. My main issue with this game, that may or may not be a skill issue, is that I find the depth perception way worse on the console version, which is surprising. I don't know how I just kinda assumed that with a bigger display, depth would be easier to communicate. Guess I'm wrong, though that might be because you have to hit the ball earlier than when it gets to you. I'm not sure if that's because of my setup or TV or if the game's just like this, but I found I had to press the swing button a decent bit earlier than when it gets to Knights because that's the only character I play as, despite never playing any of their games, which they only got 2. Huh. Anyway, yeah, I found that when I tried hitting the balls right as they got to me, it wouldn't work and I needed to press a button a lot earlier, which might have been a problem with depth perception, maybe. But honestly, I found this really bad camera angle where the camera is right behind your character to work better for me, which is interesting. I just found the ball's position and when to hit it a lot easier to tell with this, but it's just weird. But otherwise, the main gameplay is very similar with some small differences. This version does feel a bit faster paced, but the shot types are all the same and all have the same functionality. Except I found the smashes were actually a lot more difficult to perform in this game, interestingly. Now, when the opportunity arises to perform one, a glowing spot on the ground appears, and if you press a shot inside it, you perform the smash. This spot isn't around for very long, and usually by the time I see it, there is no chance I can utilize it. Whereas in the DS version, there isn't any glowy spots, but does feel like there's a wider window for when the smash shots can be performed. They also improved the superstars for each to be a little more than a fancy ball path, which I honestly quite like. Each one has a secondary effect such as leaving bananas on the field or teleporting and stunning an opponent when they hit the ball, which I think is neat. It makes them actually be somewhat unique, which is appreciated. One thing that isn't as good in this game, though, is the mission mode, which is a little annoying. It seems like it would be about the same as the DS version, which I wish it was. But for some reason, an annoying amount of the missions for the worlds are just tournaments, not creative little minigames. Samba de Amigo, for example, just has a doubles battle, which is so lame. Nothing about... Wait, what is Samba de Amigo? A rhythm game? Oh shoot, they had a Switch game, huh? Oh yeah, I own it, don't I? Huh. Okay, well a rhythm game would be a bit hard to adapt. We could have tried something more suitable for the world than just a normal doubles battle. Now I haven't done all the missions in the game, mainly because I don't want to do a bunch of the tournaments, so maybe after this first set they get a bit better overall, but it's still really lame. One thing that is improved though is how most of the unique missions in either game have an endless mode in this one under the games, which I think is pretty cool. I kind of thought having an endless mode thingy once you beat all of them in the DS version would have been nice. and here, you get that without having to beat them all, which is cool. Overall though, I do prefer the DS version. One part is definitely due to nostalgia, but also just from the fact I think it's a more charming and cool version. The DS version is a pretty full-on conversion, only really missing a few small things, which, honestly, for the time is pretty cool. Usually they're completely different. I should know. I played a bunch of Rabbids games, but the one thing that sticks out to me is that so many of the franchises here have not gotten a new game in ages, and if they did, they didn't do that great, like Samba de Amigo. I forgot I had that game. Knights had one on the Wii. Space Channel 5 had a VR game that did very poorly, and Jet Set Radio that I don't even think made it out of 2002. Huh. I wonder what they were like. Foreshadowing is a literary device.